Imagine a world where a killer could vanish into the crowd, leaving only fear and heartbreak behind. In the quiet villages of Leicestershire, England, two teenage girls, Linda Mann and Dawn Ashworth, were found raped and murdered, their lives stolen in the dark. The brutality was shocking, the community shattered. Parents locked their doors. Children were warned never to walk alone. The police had no suspects, no witnesses, and no way to see the invisible hand that had struck twice. But hidden in the evidence was a secret, one so small it could fit on the head of a pin, yet powerful enough to change the world. This is the story of how a double tragedy led to a scientific revolution, and how a single drop of blood would rewrite the rules of justice forever. Would you trust a new technology to decide guilt or innocence? Or would you fear what it might reveal about the people you thought you knew? Linda Mann and Dawn Ashworth were ordinary girls, living in the safety of small-town England. Linda was thoughtful and kind, a girl who loved music and dreamed of becoming a nurse. Dawn was bright and adventurous, always ready to help a friend or try something new. Their families were close-knit, their futures full of promise. On November 21, 1983, Linda left home to visit a friend, promising to be back before dark. She never returned. 3 years later, Dawn disappeared while walking home, her path crossing the same shadowy ground where Linda's life had ended. The villages of Narborough and Enderby were places where everyone knew each other, where nothing bad was supposed to happen. But beneath the surface, fear was growing. No one could imagine that the face of evil might be someone they passed every day on the street. The investigation was relentless. Police gathered evidence, interviewed neighbors, and followed every lead. Semen samples were collected from both crime scenes, but in the 1980s, forensic science was limited, blood type was as far as technology could go. The cases went cold, the killers still at large. Then, after Dawn's murder, suspicion fell on a local teenager, Richard Buckland. He was vulnerable, easily led, and under pressure. He confessed to killing Dawn, but denied any part in Linda's death. The confession didn't fit the facts, but the police were desperate for answers. Enter Alec Jeffreys, a geneticist at the University of Leicester, who had just developed a radical new technique, DNA fingerprinting. For the first time, science could look at the unique code inside every cell and say, "This is you. And only you." Jeffreys compared Buckland's DNA to the crime scene samples. The result was clear: Buckland was innocent. For the first time in history, DNA didn't just point to a killer. It saved an innocent life. With Richard Buckland exonerated by the new science of DNA, the investigation was back at square one. The real killer was still out there, walking free among the very people who now lived in fear. Determined to catch him, Leicestershire police made a bold, unprecedented move. They would ask every man aged 16 to 34 within an 8-kilometer radius, over 5,500 men, to voluntarily give a blood or saliva sample. It was the largest DNA dragnet the world had ever seen, soon dubbed the Blooding. The operation was massive, expensive, and controversial, costing over £500,000, a fortune at the time. Day after day, men lined up, some nervous, some defiant, others quietly terrified of what the test might reveal. For many, it was a chance to clear their names and help the community heal. For others, it was an invasion of privacy, a sign that the world was changing in ways they couldn't control. Weeks turned into months. Over 4,000 samples were painstakingly tested in Alec Jeffreys' lab, each one compared to the DNA left at the crime scenes. But every result came back negative. Frustration grew. Had the killer refused to give a sample? Had he slipped through the cracks, or left town altogether? The community's hope began to fade, replaced by a gnawing sense of defeat. Then, in August 1987, a twist straight out of a crime novel. In a Leicester pub, a woman named Jackie Fogjin overheard a conversation that would change everything. Ian Kelly, a local bakery worker, was boasting that he'd taken the DNA test for someone else. For £200, he'd posed as his friend, Colin Pitchfork, using a fake passport. Fogjin reported what she'd heard to the police. Investigators quickly zeroed in on Pitchfork, a 27-year-old baker, husband, and father of two. On the surface, he was an ordinary man. But his past was darker than anyone knew. A history of indecent exposure, sexual assault, and a chilling ability to hide in plain sight. When police finally brought Pitchfork in for a real DNA test, the results were immediate and irrefutable. His genetic profile matched the semen samples from both Linda Mann and Dawn Ashworth's murders. Confronted with the evidence, Pitchfork broke down and confessed, not only to the murders, but to a string of other sexual offenses and more than 1,000 incidents of indecent exposure. The invisible killer had a name, a face, and a monstrous past that stunned even the most seasoned detectives. The case that had terrorized a community and baffled police for years was finally solved, not by luck, but by the relentless pursuit of truth and the power of a single drop of blood. On January 22, 1988, Colin Pitchfork pleaded guilty to the murders of Linda Mann and Dawn Ashworth. He was sentenced to life in prison, his crimes described as particularly sadistic. But the case was bigger than one man. It was a turning point for justice itself. For the first time, DNA profiling had not only caught a killer, but freed the innocent. Alec Jeffrey's discovery became the gold standard for forensic science, leading to the creation of national DNA databases and solving thousands of cases worldwide. But the story didn't end there. The mass DNA screening raised new questions about privacy, consent, and the power of science to peer into our most personal secrets. For the families of Linda and Dawn, the verdict brought closure, but also a lifetime of grief and a fierce debate about whether life in prison should really mean life. The legacy of the case is everywhere. In every solved cold case, every exonerated prisoner, every family that finally gets to know the truth. Would you give your DNA to catch a killer? Or would you worry about what else it might reveal? Sometimes, justice comes from the most unexpected places. A drop of blood, a whisper in a pub, a scientist's dream. The Colin Pitchfork case is a story of heartbreak and hope, of science and humanity, of the power we hold in every cell of our bodies. It's a reminder that the truth can hide for years, but it can never be erased, not when love, memory, and determination join forces. Thank you for joining me on this journey through darkness and discovery. If this story moved you, share it, because every cold case deserves a second chance and every family deserves answers. Until next time, remember, the past is never truly gone. Sometimes, it's just waiting for the right moment to be found. Stay curious and never stop searching for the truth.
Like and subscribe.